Welcome to Workpoint News podcast. My name is Nopajak Atanon, online news editors for Workpoint News. And I'm here today with Professor Rafal Pankowski, a professor from Never Again Association. Good evening, Mr. Rafal. Do you want to introduce more about yourself?
Yes, I am a member of the Never Again Association, which is a civil society initiative that conducts monitoring and educational initiatives against right-wing extremism, racism and xenophobia. I am also a sociologist at Collegium Civitas in Warsaw, in Poland.
So you came here to Thailand to discuss about right-wing extremism in Europe. But today I want to discuss about this topic, but also get people to engage more with the topic of football. Lately, it's 2019, but racism in football, I think, has been mentioned even like almost every weekend. What do you make of it? What happened to the right-wing politics that it came to put football cultures?
Well, football and sports in general, it is an important part of contemporary popular culture. In this sense, it is an important part of everyday education, socialization. Yes, young people in particular who go to the football stadium, who become part of the culture, they are influenced by the values that are promoted, expressed through the football culture in the stadium and outside of the stadium. And one of the big challenges nowadays is the infiltration of the football culture by radical far-right nationalist groups. That, of course, as a phenomenon, is not new. It is known for many years and decades already. But I think especially in some of the countries of Central and Eastern Europe, those far-right groups have been very successful in manipulating youth culture in general and the sports culture and football culture in particular, infiltrating the culture and manipulating it, promoting the ideology of far-right extremism, hatred, xenophobia, also homophobia. And there are many examples and illustrations. Like you said, almost every week we hear about those incidents in the stadiums. But I think it is also important to note what is happening outside of the stadiums, that is also influenced by the values and by the ideologies that are promoted in football culture. To give you an example from Poland, from just a couple of weeks ago, there was a gay rights march in Białystok, which is a city in Poland, that attracted about 1,000 participants. But there was also a counter-demonstration that was violent, and the counter-demonstration organized by far-right groups attracted a bigger number of participants, and many of them were mobilized through the football culture, through the networks of football fans and football hooligans from all over Poland. So what we can see in this case and in many other cases is the fact that the hatred and the violence spills over from the stadium to the streets and to the general society. So it's not just a problem of football. It's of course a social problem, and of course intolerance was not invented in the football stadium. It was a bigger problem, but the football stadium often serves as a platform for the promotion of ideas. Sometimes these are negative ideas, but it does not have to be like that, because football culture can also be a platform for the promotion of positive ideas. Football can unite people above divisions of nationality or background or religion, etc. And of course, there are many wonderful examples of football as a force that unites people, that brings them together. So our initiative, the Never Again Association, has been active in the field of football culture for many years now. We have a campaign under the title "Let's Kick Racism Out of the Stadium." And one of the biggest activities that we organized in this context took place around the European Football Championships in Poland and Ukraine in the year 2012. We conducted a large-scale educational campaign under the title Respect Diversity with the support of UEFA, the European Football Federation, in both countries, in both Poland and Ukraine, in cooperation with ethnic minority groups and many other partners in both countries. And that was an interesting example of how sports, football, a big event, can be used as a tool to promote a positive message of respect for diversity. And as we know, millions of people watched the championships, both in the stadiums and especially on television. So in this way, we could reach a very big audience with a positive message of respect for diversity. We were also involved in preparations for the World Cup in Russia last year, which was also a big challenge for many different reasons. But such big events also provide an opportunity for the promotion of intercultural dialogue and the promotion of respect for diversity. So in this context, I think it is very interesting to note that ASEAN countries want to organize a football World Cup in the future. I think it could be a very interesting initiative. It could be a big challenge, but also a big opportunity for civil society in terms of promoting a positive message. So let's see what happens. We are very open to an exchange of experiences with civil society groups in Thailand and in the region of Southeast Asia.
It occurs to me that right-wing extremism surfaced massively in the last 4 or 5 years. In the same time, the social media grow so big. Is it relevant? In your study, do you find like a research that back my statement up?
Well, of course, the internet and social media in particular can be a wonderful tool for communication between people above all kinds of divisions. But it can also be a tool that is exploited by the far-right groups promoting hatred, promoting exclusion, promoting discrimination. And unfortunately, we have to be aware of the fact that hate speech leads to hate crime. It can also lead to violent attacks, such as the terrorist attack in Christchurch in New Zealand, that was very clearly connected with hate speech on social media. So what we are dealing with is a global challenge of hatred that knows no borders, that is transmitted through social media and other channels. So the anti-Muslim propaganda nowadays seems to be one of the main driving forces of the international far-right movement, and it is transmitted largely through the social media. I think some of the big social media companies are just now waking up to this challenge. Better late than never. They are slowly realizing their own responsibility. Also in the cases where hate speech leads to extreme violence. Let's look at Sri Lanka. Let's look at Myanmar. We cannot talk about the genocidal violence in Myanmar without mentioning the role that the anti-Muslim propaganda played, including the propaganda promoted through social media. The Never Again Association is also active in a network under the name International Network Against Cyber Hate, which is working to tackle the challenge of this sort of global phenomenon of hate speech online. I think very slowly we are at a moment, at a stage when the global awareness is growing of the threat that is posed by hate speech online. But it's still a very long way to go before we can effectively deal with this threat. And I think there is a role for everybody to play, everybody that uses the internet, in terms of being sensitive to the instances of hate speech. But like I said, it's still a very long way to go, and unfortunately nowadays hate speech on social media is one of the biggest challenges that we are facing.
Speaking of hatred, speaking of right-wing extremism and democracy, I think a lot of us would believe that a place where democracy flourished would diminish all this hatred. But recently, the hatred spread in a country like England, in Great Britain, in the US, where democracy has been practiced for years. What do you make of that?
Well, I agree. Even so-called old democracies are now facing the challenge of nationalism and populism, and also the challenge of extremist movements, and also violence by extremist movements. I think what it tells us is the simple truth that democratic culture cannot be taken for granted, and progress does not happen automatically. As citizens of democratic societies, we cannot just sit back and relax, believing a democratic culture will take care of itself by itself. There is a role for all of us, for every citizen, in the sense of protecting democratic values, standing up to hatred, reacting to the cases of hate speech and hate crime, and I think each of us in their own way can have a positive contribution to democratic society, but that will not happen by itself.
As a citizen, we cannot, we want to try our best to protect any bad things that happen in the world, but as a citizen, as one person, what could be, what would be your advice to be like a pillar to hold against this strong kind of right-wing extremism of hatred?
Mm-hmm. Well, there are many different ways, and of course the modern technology also provides us with tools for everybody to be an engaged citizen. There are many positive civil society initiatives that could be supported by everybody, also through online activism. Maybe online activism is in itself not sufficient. It is not enough, but it is a good start. So if you are interested in supporting positive initiatives, you can go online. You are very welcome to visit the website of the Never Again Association and also our Facebook and Twitter accounts. There are other organizations out there that can be supported in that way. But I think it is also important for citizens to be active at the grassroots level in the local community and to express solidarity with victims of hate speech and hate crimes. It can be any minority, it can be anybody who is targeted or bullied for any reason. And there are so many everyday situations where people need solidarity, and each of us can give solidarity. I think that is important.
Thank you very much for tonight.
Thank you.